This 13 richest countries by gross domestic product, at purchasing power parity, per capita. Using the purchasing power parity value of all final goods to show true value of dollar within a country in a given year. Oil nations continued to dominate the list into Saudi Arabia, $51,924 GDP, PPP, per capita. Saudi Arabia is one of many oil-based economies with strong government control over major economic activities that enjoy high GDP. Its GDP, PPP, per capita is $51,924 as it possesses 18% of the world's proven petroleum reserves, ranks as the largest exporter of petroleum, and played a leading role in OPEC for many years. The petroleum sector accounts for almost all of Saudi government revenues and export earnings. Despite possessing the largest petroleum reserves in the world, its per capita income is much smaller than that of smaller Persian Gulf neighbors. Number 9. The United States, $54,630 gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per capita. While most nations on the list have small populations, relatively, it is impressive that the world's largest economy, the United States, can maintain a per capita gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, of $54,630, considering its population of over 310 million people. Reasons behind its success include its large domestic automotive industry, technological sector that foster innovation, and a system of democracy that protects entrepreneurial and intellectual property rights. Number 8. Switzerland, $57,235 gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per capita. The gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per Swiss citizen is $57,235. Swiss banking and financial institutions keep this country and its economy afloat. It is important to note that some of the wealthiest people and companies in the world own Swiss bank accounts, and therefore Switzerland has excess capital to use for investment purposes. Zurich and Geneva, Switzerland's most well-known cities, have consistently ranked among the top 10 highest living standard cities in the world. Number 7. Norway, $64,856 gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per capita. This Nordic nation's per gross domestic product of $64,856 allows its 4.97 million people to reap the benefits of a small yet robust economy. Driven by fishing, natural resources, and major petroleum exploration, Norway is the 8th largest exporter of crude oil, 9th largest exporter of refined oil, and 3rd largest exporter of natural gas in the world. Number 6. The United Arab Emirates, $67,674 gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per capita. This Middle Eastern Federation of Emirates has a land area of about 32,278 square miles, which means it could easily fit within New York State, 54,556 square miles. With a population of 9.2 million people, it's a bit more populated than the state of New Jersey. A third of the $67,674 per capita economy comes from oil revenues, while the service sector and telecommunications also contribute significantly. The UAE is the second largest economy in the Arab world after Saudi Arabia. Number 5. Brunei, $71,185 gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per capita. Brunei, a small country with a wealthy economy that is a mixture of foreign and domestic entrepreneurship, government regulation and welfare measures, and village tradition has led to gross domestic product per capita, purchasing power parity, of $71,185. It is almost completely supported by exports of crude oil and natural gas. Like other oil countries in the list, the government has shown progress in diversifying the economy away from just oil and gas. Number 4. Kuwait, $73,246 gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per capita. Kuwait is a small, relatively open economy and its citizens enjoy a per capita gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, of $73,246. The highest valued currency unit in the world currently is the Kuwaiti dinar. With nearly 10% of the world's oil reserves, petroleum accounts for nearly half of gross domestic product and 95% of export revenues and government income. In recent years, Kuwait has done little to diversify its economy due to positive fiscal situation. Number 3. Singapore, $82,763 gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per capita. This tiny city-state has moved up from 5th position to take 3rd with per capita income, purchasing power parity, of $82,763, which is 5 times the average per capita income for an ordinary individual in the world. The basis of Singapore's wealth is its financial services sector, a chemical export industry, and its liberal economic policies that encourage growth and innovation. Singapore has the second busiest port in the world, exporting $414 billion of goods in 2011 alone. Number 2. Luxembourg, $97,662 gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per capita. A symbol of wealth, number 2 on the list has a per capita gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, of $97,662, which is 9 times the world average. The backbone of this strong economy is its vibrant financial sector, prudent fiscal policies, and dynamic industrial and steel sectors. Banking in Luxembourg is the largest sector of its economy with an asset base of over $1.24 trillion alone. Number 1. Qatar ranks number 1 on the list of the top 10 richest nations because of its high gross domestic product, purchasing power parity, per capita of $140,649. Qatar has a well-developed oil exploration industry where the petroleum industry accounts for 70% of its government revenue, 60% of its gross domestic product and 85% of its export earnings. Because of its wealth and economic success, it has been chosen as the host of the 2022 FIFA World Cup, the first Arab nation to ever hold this role. However, Qatar is also the most controversial country on the list for its use of forced labor from nations throughout Asia and parts of Africa.